A shock in the mail for a group of Northwest Omaha neighbors. They're being told to fix a sidewalk hazard or the city will bill them.
Tonight, Mike McKnight investigates why the property owners contend part of the work would be just a waste of their money.
Green X's look like dollar signs to 6 property owners who will have to pay for sidewalk repairs.
Yeah, there's definitely an unfairness.
Jim Frick has a projected bill of about $800, but says his complaint has 2 sides.
We understand in front of the houses, kind of makes sense.
But their issue is paying for repairs on the sidewalk behind their homes, where a neighborhood fence and strip of land are between their property lines and the sidewalk.
So if we're not responsible for snow removal and mowing, why are we responsible for sidewalk maintenance? Because the sidewalk is beyond the area that the homeowners association mows.
The city says it's not involved in agreements between homeowners and their HOA.
It looks like somebody's rolled over it with something heavy.
But property owners say they didn't agree to fiber optic and other utility crews working near the sidewalk and smashing panels that the neighbors must pay to replace.
That's exactly what the problem is we're fixing something that, first off, we didn't break, and second off, is not usable by anybody that does want to use it.
The city says adjacent property owners should file a claim with companies that caused the damage.
Why should we be responsible, right?
But Grant Kitchen complains that much of his almost $1,700 cost will be for panels marked on what he calls the sidewalk to nowhere. Because this is one panel away from the end of the sidewalk. And if you look toward 132nd, it's obvious not many people are going to be walking this way. The city's response is that the ordinance doesn't take into account the eventual termination point of the sidewalk. Since inspectors only respond to complaints, someone had to be using the dead-end sidewalk and called in the hazardous panels along the way.
Doesn't make sense at all. Like she said, there's been a lot of different construction people working here, and we didn't cause the damage, but we're stuck with the bill, apparently.
Letters from the city tell the 6 townhome owners that sidewalk maintenance is important to property values and protects them from liability if a walker, runner, or biker is injured on the sidewalk adjacent to their property. But they say the sidewalk on the other side of the fence needs a barricade instead of repairs.
No one's going beyond this panel unless they want a 4-wheel drive experience.
East of 134th Street along Fort, Mike McKnight, First Alert 6.
Right here. One more.
The Hillsborough Landowners Association just learned of the city notices and is reviewing whether the sidewalk is adjacent to the homeowner's property or the neighborhood common area.
Yes, so no determination has been made on financial responsibility by the homeowners or the association and if something can be worked out with the city. But because the deadline for repairs is almost up, the Landowners Association is working quickly on answers for property owners expecting those bills. Warren